So back in February, I was out in Vegas for a business/pleasure adventure out there and met some of my girlfriends and did sort of a public appearance and so on. And the story about Don Lemon and Nikki Haley broke. You know, women are past their prime when they're, 30s, maybe 40. And this was in response to Nikki Haley. So women everywhere on the left and the right, and a lot of men too, said like, you're an idiot. It wound up going into the speech of the Best Actress winner at the Oscars, who said, don't let anyone tell you that you're past your prime. This is a 60-year-old woman. He got criticized by Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House podium. He got criticized from Anna Quinlan, famed left-wing, amazing writer. She's written so many great books. And of course, people like me and women on the right as well. And Nikki Haley spoke out. I could go down the list. This was not his first foray into misogyny. There had been a considerable list prior to that moment, from him saying that one of Bill Cosby's rape victims should have just bitten down to prevent herself from being orally raped, because that reflects the power and physical dynamics between a rape victim and her rapist. What he said to Essie Cup on the air when she forgot her words. Oh, is that your mommy brain? That's your mommy brain, right? Essie Cup was noticeably, visibly irritated and said, no, Don, I just forgot my words. We could go down the list. So at the time, I said this on the air. Watch this. This is a pattern of him diminishing. I'm telling you, look into it. If any reporter worth their salt would actually do some digging, call CNN. Do it. Call their HR right now. Find out whether he's got a history of harassing his female colleagues. We did, by the way, call CNN and asked about whether there's been any history of problems with Don Lemon and women at CNN, and they ignored us. They blew us off. You're not going to be able to avoid it forever. Like, if he's got some history, we're going to find out about it. And then you're going to look stupid. And by the way, Chris Licht, I know you're new. You should look into it right now before you give him another pass.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look into it.
Megyn, get him. That's awesome.
Nostradamus.
Okay, can I tell you? And now Variety dropping this article by Tatiana Siegel, Don Lemon's misogyny at CNN exposed. Malicious texts, mocking female coworkers, and diva-like behavior. And I just want to tell you, this is what we actually went to CNN and asked at the time, because this ain't my first rodeo. I have been through these things with men who have a series of patterns against women many, many times. And I've called it out on the left and the right repeatedly. Check the record. So I asked the following questions, my team of CNN at the time. This is what they blew off. Has Don Lemon ever been the subject of a human resources complaint by a female anchor or correspondent? Has he been accused of harassment or other improper behavior by any CNN employee? How were such complaints, if any, resolved? Has he faced any disciplinary action or demotions in the wake of any such complaints from the beginning of his employment with CNN to present day? And they blew them all off, okay? I guess those weren't relevant. But Variety, that forced them to respond on some of this stuff, because I didn't even touch on the harassment he's been doing, or I don't know what word you'd use. I'd say harassment, but just mistreatment of his female co-anchors, which has been making news for months now. He forced at least one of them crying into the bathroom. One ran off the set upset. He keeps interrupting. He keeps getting upset that he's getting interrupted. He refused to go to break one time so that he could correct one of his female co-anchors' interviews and try to lecture her on how it ought to be done. I mean, it's been ongoing. So it's very clear. So now Variety takes this deep dive, and there are many instances. All right, Soledad O'Brien is on the record. Nancy Grace, someone close to Nancy, gives an incendiary quote. I'll get to all of this. But here's the first story. Kira Phillips, who was at CNN for years and now is at ABC Digital, in 2008 was Don Lemon's co-anchor. They had a show that they shared, and this is from the piece. Tensions between the pair kept mounting. By the way, that's exactly what's happening right now between Lemon and his two co-hosts, female co-hosts, Poppy Harlow and Caitlin Collins. Which is the first show he's co-anchored with a woman since Kira Phillips. Now we know why. Tensions between the pair kept mounting. A producer and a newsroom supervisor had to pull Don Lemon off the air during a commercial break because of the anchor's provocative antics. Kira Phillips was on assignment in Iraq, and while she was there, it was a high-profile gig that Lemon coveted. He vented his disappointment at being passed over by tearing up pictures and notes on top of and inside of Phillips's desk in the news pod they shared. I mean, if that's true, that's crazy ass like single white female behavior, right? Like that's like, what? According to two sources who worked there at the time, I should say here, Don Lemon denies this, and I'll read his denial in full. One night, while dining with members of the news team, Kira Phillips received the first of two threatening text messages from an unknown number. So now it's elevated from ripping up photos and documents and leaving them on top of her desk, her photos and documents, to text messages that are threatening from an unknown number on her flip phone, warning, quote, "Now you've crossed the line and you're going to pay for it," end quote.
Gee.
Phillips was visibly rattled and quickly enlisted CNN's higher-ups to identify the sender. Right? She's like, who's my crazy-ass stalker? Remarkably, reports Variety, the texts were traced back to Lemon, according to these same sources. A human resources investigation was launched, and while the findings were never disclosed to the growing pool of staffers who were aware of the situation, Lemon was abruptly pulled from his co-anchor duties with Phillips and was moved to the weekends. It was a demotion by any objective measure and understood to be some kind of disciplinary action. It appears to be the last time he was paired with a female anchor until his most recent assignment on the morning show with Poppy and Caitlin. Phillips declined comment, and now here's the capper. A spokesperson for CNN said to Variety, quote, Don says, as if CNN must rely on Don's word to know whether this happened. Don says the alleged incident never occurred and that he was never notified of any investigation. CNN cannot corroborate the alleged events from 15 years ago. What kind of an HR hellhole is this? No, keep going, Duncan. I missed it. What'd you say?
It sounds like a real top-notch news gathering organization. They can't corroborate anything.
Right.
Their own stuff. They can't, we really tried. We just couldn't find any reporter to corroborate any of this at a news station, Like, think about that. I mean, the intimidation that you listed out there, and it's gone back, 15 years. I mean, shouldn't be Don Lemon. It's guys like Don Corleone.
Well, but Don says.
Yeah.
Don says it's not a problem.
Don says it's not true. Like, you can't find any other people at CNN who were there and on that team from 15 years ago. Where are your HR records? Because this is the reason why companies keep HR records. For this very, right? Like, this is how you know if you have a problematic employee. You check the HR file and you figure out, oh my God, holy shit, maybe we shouldn't pair him with Caitlin Collins and Poppy Harlow unless we've really assured ourselves he's had no interim problems with women. Oh wait, check the record. He's had a lot of them. He's said a lot of controversial things about a lot of his female colleagues. If you read this piece, my main takeaway is no one likes Don Lemon. No one. There's no person. Like, the women who are quoted in here are all like, he's a prick. He's a jerk. He's been a jerk for a long time. And this incident for CNN just be like, oh, the records don't. You know what? If the records don't corroborate, you can't find any records on this, then let's figure out whether Kira Phillips has an NDA. Because she must not have one, right? You can't find the records. Let her speak. CNN, will you go on the record right now and say, Kira Phillips, if you signed an NDA in connection with this incident, you may speak publicly about it because we have no information suggesting that it happened or that you were gagged, right? I don't know what the truth is there, but I'd love to find out. Let's see if they do that, right? Let's hear. Well, CNN, you'd love to speak. You spoke to Variety. Speak to me. Answer my questions. I'd love to know your answer.
I have a sneaking suspicion CNN's being a little coy with this, and that old Don Lemon's on his way out. And Ashbrook talks about this all the time in media reports with regard to Democrats, and I think with media hosts it's the exact same. And that is when the media starts writing these stories about somebody, the call's coming from inside the house. Like when you see a hit piece on a Democrat, it's because it benefits another Democrat. When you see a story about a CNN host, it's because CNN's trying to get rid of him.
I think that's a very astute observation. I mean, obviously the guy's ratings are terrible. They've moved him around. Nothing seems to work. And this has been going on internally for 15 years. And Megyn, as well as anybody else, these major media organizations can be very tough on the inside. And for somebody to have that sort of track record and have that many women talking about how horrible he is to work with, I think what Duncan's saying might be right. Maybe they're just looking to offload.
Should say so. I mean, what do you have to do to get fired around there? It's incredible. This dude, I'm beginning to think he has naked pictures of Chris Licht. Like, how in the world? First of all, he had the most horrible show on television that practically nobody watched. And then remember he was advising a subject of the news of how to handle the news and the Jussie Smollett deal.
Jussie Smollett.
Right? Yeah.
And, you know what that was? That's detailed in here, that she goes back through that. And it's worse than I remember. She writes, some colleagues questioned his journalistic ethics in 2021 when disgraced actor Jussie Smollett testified in court that Jussie first learned that Chicago police doubted his story about being the victim of this MAGA-inspired attack after receiving a text message warning him from Don Lemon. That's how Jussie first found out the cops doubted him. Don Lemon warned him. I've never been able to compost before. It always seemed too complicated and too much work and just, hassle. Not anymore, thanks to Lomi, which actually is fun. Lomi allows me to turn my food scraps into dirt with a push of a button. Lomi's a countertop electric composter that turns scraps into dirt in under 4 hours. There's no smell when it runs, and it's super quiet. Thanks to Lomi, I have way less garbage each week. Bonus. Instead, I am turning the family food waste into nutrient-rich dirt that I can then feed to my plants. Now I am composting and creating soil with the best of them. Instead of all that waste, I have a basically limitless supply of dirt for my garden, and you can join me in this endeavor. If you would like to start making a positive environmental impact or just make cleanup after dinner that much easier, Lomi is perfect for you. Go to lomi.com/MK, LOMI.com/MK, and use the promo code MK to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to LOMI.com/MK and use that promo code MK at checkout. Food waste is gross. Lomi is your solution. Lomi.com/MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.